Hey guys, it's Isabella. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome to my channel if you are new. Today we are sitting down and filming the book recommendation tag. This tag was created, I believe, by Steph. I will leave her channel link down below so you guys can go check it out. We all love tags, like that is like old school YouTube, and it's so much fun, and they're perfect for book recommendations because I mean, they're just perfect, are they not? They are. It is just so nice to be sitting down and filming a video because my last few ones have been like vlogs, and I don't know, I feel like I haven't sat down in forever. I'm in my new library room. If you haven't been following along, I moved into my very own place. I have my own library room. It's really exciting. There will be a library tour or like a book room tour, but not yet because it's not complete. I still need like a couch or like a one-seater sofa type thing, and there's still some more things I'm gonna add, so I don't really want to show it until I'm like fully happy with it. It might be another month or so, but whenever I do that, it'll be like probably my favorite video of the year, because this is like my dream, is to have my own library room, and I'm sitting in it and it's great. My shelves do look a little bare right now. That is because I have a giant stack literally this high with books from my shelves, which is why there's missing books. So we're gonna jump straight on into it because I don't want this video to be an hour long. The first prompt, and I have these like little sticky notes so I could remember. The first prompt is a book you tell people is your favorite. This I kind of felt difficult like to answer because it's not necessarily your favorite book, it's the book you tell people is your favorite. And I don't really know the answer to this because I don't really have anyone that I tell like, oh my gosh, this is my favorite book, you should read it. Because when people ask my favorite book, I usually just panic. And I usually just say the book I'm currently reading. Like, I don't know. But I picked two for this. There are other books on this list that could fall into this category, but I made a rule for myself. I only wanted one book mentioned once. So that is why, otherwise there would definitely be crossovers. But first we have Diary of Blood by S.T. Gibson. This is a Dracula retelling. We're following Dracula's first bride, and she writes him a letter before she kills him, or why she kills him before she kills him. I don't know, it's been a while. I do want to reread this and like annotate it. This is a very like feminist read, and I feel like if I tell people, yeah, this is my favorite, they'll be able to tell a lot about me and my views. And like, I mean, this book's just about like strong women and crappy men, and I just feel like it's a very powerful book. It's an empowering book. But another book that is quite different that I would tell people is my favorite because of the genre is A Curse to Dark and Lonely by Bridget Camera. This is one of my favorite series. Specifically, like the second and third book is way better than this book, but I would tell people this is my favorite because fantasy is my favorite genre, so I feel like it's a given that I pick a fantasy book. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. Kind of similar to ACOTAR. It's often compared. I loved both of them like so much. I read this before ACOTAR though, and has my heart, has my whole heart. It's actually, no, I have two shelves dedicated to Bridget Camera because I love her that much. Next we have a book that is your guilty pleasure. I picked this book simply because it's considered taboo, and that is the Guild series by Raven Kennedy. This is actually called the Plated Prisoner series. This is Guild, the first book. The only reason I'm saying this is my guilty pleasure is because this is a dark romance, and I do not read dark romance, and a lot of people probably wouldn't like this book. So, but I love it. It's a King Midas retelling. It's about, again, a very empowered and powerful woman who's been through a lot. I feel like if you like Diary of Blood, you may like this, although there is trigger warnings, but I believe there's literally a trigger warning page at the front, which we love that, okay? Every author needs to be doing that. For number 3, we have a book everyone loved but you didn't. This I did not own physically, but it is definitely going to be Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. I read this in December last year. I think I gave it like 3 stars. It was a very okay read to me. I just found the premise a bit strange. Like, I couldn't really focus on the romance when there was that like other plot going on. She was trying to get her daughter back. She just got out of prison. I don't even remember her name, but I don't know, I just found it strange. Like, I just didn't vibe with it. It wasn't not my favorite, and I'm kind of glad I didn't buy that book. I have some Colleen books, but I kind of have made a rule for myself that I will not read a Colleen Hoover book. I will not buy a Colleen Hoover book without reading it first. I have a few books on my shelves I bought before I made that rule, but I think it's just because she's very either love the book or hate the book for me. That was a ramble. Anyway, number 4 is a book you read the fastest, and for me, I'm gonna go with The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. Despite the massive size of this book, I read it pretty quickly, and I have reread it lots of times, and every time I've reread this book, I've read it really quickly. I just find it very easy to read and digestible. Some people think this book is repetitive, and it is, but I actually really like repetitive plots, so like there's 2 books in this list that would be classed as repetitive that I love. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I love Addie LaRue. Addie's one of my favorite characters. This brings me back to like, this is one of the first books I annotated, and it's just very like, I don't know. Anyway, this book's literally about a girl who makes a deal with the devil. And the deal is she can live forever, but everyone she meets will forget her. So the minute she walks away, they forget her. Low-key depressing, but it was really good. Number 5 is a book that deserves more hype. And for me, I'm going to go with Seraphina by Rachel Hartman. This is a book that I picked up at like a thrift store because it had a dragon on it and I thought it was cool. And I need to stop saying reread. I read it for the first time in 2020, 2021. I don't know. It's due for a reread though. I loved it. I do believe it's a standalone, I think. And it's about dragons. It's really cool, really cool world. If you love dragons, this is a must. Number 6 is a book that is becoming a TV show or movie, and I didn't really have any that is becoming one, so I just decided to pick one that is one, and so I picked Little Women. This is already a movie. I love the movie with Timothée Chalamet. Oh, it is a masterpiece, okay? That is a masterpiece. I just wanted to mention this book, and I mean, this is the only book I own, I think, that falls into the category of like movies other than like Harry Potter. So I know it's already out, but like I wanted to mention Little Women's a classic. If you don't know, it's about sisters, their relationships. It's just really, it's a staple. If you want to get into classics, I would highly recommend this one. A book you reread the most definitely has to go to The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. This is the other book that is often considered as repetitive that I absolutely love. This is also the book that got me into reading. This is it. This is the book. This was my first book that I actually purchased, and it started it all, and I love it. It's on my nightstand because I just love it that much. And it's about a girl who gets stuck between life and death, and she gets to open up these books and they show her what her life would be like if she made a different decision. There are trigger warnings for this, so make sure you look it up before you get into it. It's heavy on the mental health, but it was just amazing, and this is also one of my favorite covers. Like, come on. I don't know, it's just, maybe it's just because like this book holds a lot to my heart, but I just love this book and I've reread it so many times. I don't even know how many times. Maybe like 5 or 6, just whenever, honestly. I could probably reread it again. I don't think I've reread it this year, so. Next we have a book from a genre you don't typically read, and I picked nonfiction, so I went with Love Stories by Trent Dalton. This is a collection of love stories. This guy went to like, I think he went to like Brisbane, I think it was Brisbane, maybe it was like Sydney, somewhere in Australia. I don't know where it is. Anyway, somewhere in Australia, and he sits on the corner and asks people to tell them their love stories. And it's everything. Every type of love story, you know, relationships between partners, siblings, mother-daughter, everything. And it's just amazing. I actually annotated this the first time I read it because I just knew I'd love it. Like, underline, it's just gorgeous. If you love love, this is good. I'm not really a big romance reader, but I do love reading about love. Make that make sense? I don't know. This is really good. 9 is a book that deserves the hype it gets. And for me, this was easy. Definitely has to go to Beach Read by Emily Henry. I loved this book. It follows Augustus and Everett. No, not Augustus and Everett. His name is Augustus Everett. Augustus and January. Augustus, Everett, and January Andrews. Right. Glad we got that down packed. Augustus writes literary fiction, I believe, and January writes romance. And they swap genres. They are kind of like, they're not enemies, but they're kind of like work rivals because they're both authors. You know, some people say this enemies to lovers. I probably wouldn't call it that, but you know, each of their own. It was really good. That scene in this book with like the bookshelf, or like the shelf, if you know, you know. I read this book like 2 years ago. It's still right there. Like, it has not left my brain. Next, we have a book you would recommend when asked for a recommendation. This one, I went with Heartbones by Colleen Hoover. I mean, it depends on the person, but I really loved this book. This is probably one of my favorite Colleen Hoover books. I do need to reread it. I literally read this a few months ago, like the end of 2022, I think, and I've forgotten most of it just because I read it on my Kindle, and for some reason it doesn't stick as much when it's on the Kindle. I don't know. Some books do. This didn't for some reason, but I know I loved it, and I know it follows Bea and Samson. I believe Bea is, it follows like two ends of economy, I guess. Like, she's not very wealthy and he is, Samson. So like rich and poor type of vibe, but then there's a big plot twist you don't really see coming. I think I did see it coming though, but it was still really good. I loved it. I don't know why I'm saying so much. I just think this is really underrated. Like, so it's criminally underrated, okay? Like, this is a masterpiece and nobody talks about it. The next question is probably my favorite in this whole tag. A book with your favorite characters, and I just am so excited to talk about this book again. You guys know I love this book, and that is Culty by Mariana Zapata. I love Culty. This is my life. This is my family. This is everything to me. I love this. Oh. You know, I have a rule. I'm only allowed to reread or read a book once a year. And the reason I do that is because I would literally be hearing the same book over and over again. I read this in January. That means I can't read this again this year. My brain won't let me. And it's so cruel because I want to read this right now. Anyway, go read this. If you get anything from this video, it's this book. It is on Kindle Unlimited. I'd recommend. This paperback was $60 and I live in Australia, so read it on the Kindle. But I read on the Kindle and then I loved it so much I had to get this. So, you know, just know you'll probably end up buying the paperback. Also, I love this cover. Some people hate it. I love it. It's a soccer romance, by the way, between a player and a coach. I hate sports. Okay? Hate sports. That was good. All right. If you were competitive as a kid, read it. This is the prompt that I have two for because I'm a predominantly fantasy reader. So this question was kind of like I'll go with Culty because obviously I love the characters, but I feel like I also have to mention like a fantasy characters, you know what I mean? So for me, I'm gonna go with The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. I actually just reread this. I don't even know, I don't think I'm gonna do a March wrap up. I might, I don't know. It wasn't the best reading month, but I did reread this and annotate it, and guys, the first time I read this book I DNF'd it. The second time it was okay, and then the third time when I actually like went through and annotated it, this is like one of my favorite books ever. And this is a good example of why you should not, or actually let me rephrase that. This is an example of why you should sometimes soft DNF books if you're not feeling them in the moment and return to them when you are feeling them, because my gosh. Yes. House in the Cerulean Sea. How do I even describe this? I don't even know. This guy named Linus is a caseworker and he has to go to this orphanage to make sure that the orphanage is running properly, but the orphanage is full of creatures that may be the end of the world. But they're not really that bad. I don't know how to describe that one. I don't know. It's wholesome. Number 12 is a world you want to live in, or a book you want to live in. And for me, I was debating Harry Potter, but I decided to go with this book because I do think it's a little bit better than Harry Potter. Don't hate me. Nevermore. I love this. I think if you're a Harry Potter girly, this is so good. I still have not read the third book, and I probably won't anytime soon because I don't want it to end, okay? I'm just not really ready. So this is a lot like Harry Potter. It's this girl who's set to die, I think on her 11th birthday. 12th? I think it's 11th. On her 11th birthday, I think she's set to die. But instead she gets whisked away to this Nevermore place, and it's magical, and there's giant cats and magic, and it's just everything. It is absolutely everything. I love it. I would love to live there. Number 13 is a book you thought you would hate but ended up loving, and this, I would have to go with Dracula. This was like one of my most scariest reads, and I loved it. I read this before I read A Diary of Blood, and it made me want to read A Diary of Blood. Yeah, this was just really enjoyable. It was different from what I was expecting, but in a good way. I would recommend it. I mean, it's Dracula. I feel like I don't really need to tell you what that one's about. Number 14 is a book that made you cry. Now, this book is controversial, okay? But I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I didn't love it because other people don't. I think everyone's entitled to their own opinions, and that's okay. My opinion is I loved this book so much. It was not the first book I read in my reading journey, but it was one of the first, and it was the first book that ever made me cry, I think. I don't think I cried. Oh no, I did cry to the Midnight Library. That's a lie. I cried to the Midnight Library. This was the second book I cried to, I think, and that is It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. I'm a Colleen girl to an extent. I mean, some of her books are questionable, but this was good, in my opinion. It's about Lily, who had a really rough upbringing, and I don't even know how to describe this. Just, I would look up the trigger warnings and I would look up the synopsis. I would read it, but it's incredibly long, and it's about domestic violence. I will tell you that much. That's not a spoiler. So if that's not your thing, obviously don't read this book. But I loved it, and I think it's really good. We are on to the very last prompt question, whatever you want to call it, and that is the book you want to reread again for the first time. And for this, I went with A Court of Wings and Rowan. This is my favorite book in the ACOTAR series. I think it is just absolutely incredible. When I say like this book, I kind of mean the whole series, but this book in particular, because I was anticipating this book the most, and I didn't actually think I would love it, but I oh my gosh, I love this book. Like, it was so good. Just like the drama between the kings, or are they even called kings? The lords, the high lords, I don't know what you want to call them, was everything. So yes. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. I am loving watching these videos right now. I love tags. Please can we bring them back, because I find them so much fun to film and even better to watch. So yeah, I will leave these questions in the description. If you guys want to answer them in the comments, feel free, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.